I'm on a mission to become good at absolutely everything in Minecraft. And today, I'm starting with building, alright? I've literally been playing this game for 13 years, and I started playing when I was a child. So at the very least, I should be really good at the game, right? But no, this is probably the best thing I've built in my survival world. Like, what are those blocks? And look at this! What the heck is this? It looks so bad. Now, you might think that these builds honestly aren't that bad, but I'm trying to steal all the building YouTube channel's viewers. That means I'm coming for you, Beetle. So let the 24-hour challenge begin. So I created a copy of my survival world, and now I've booted it up in creative. And for this challenge, I want to cover up this absolutely ugly tree farm, right? Honestly, that big black cube that was around the tree farm just wasn't really doing enough for me, because what I needed was a big, beautiful location. I've actually wanted to build something over this for a really long time, but I tried it in survival and it went horribly. I'm gonna put it bluntly, it literally looked like someone took a giant dump in my Minecraft world. So I might have been a little nervous that the same thing was gonna happen in this challenge, because I'm gonna be honest, I am not an artistically inclined person. I mean, I've definitely got something that rhymes with artistic, if you know what I mean. Alright, I think I've done enough yapping. How about I start telling you about what I'm actually building here, right? So currently, I'm building the shape of what's going to be this giant stony plateau. I'm building it from top to bottom, and what I'm trying to do with it is I'm trying to get it to funnel in as it goes down. It took me like 30 minutes to finish the rough shape of the terrain, and I just kind of took it as it is. I don't want to spend too much time getting, tripped up over this stuff, because I've got a lot more to build after this. And because I was going to be building a giant tree on top of this, I had to hit this baby with the green top. Boom! And the next step, ladies and gentlemen, is what elevates any single build that anyone has ever made to the next level. It's called texturing. I might not be an expert at this topic. I might not be a Bob Ross at texturing, but come on, it's just a block game. I think I could explain what it is at its core, Basically, it's just using similar colored blocks that have a variety of textures to give whatever you're building a unique feel. Like, just compare these two. Boring old netherrack versus texture. Doesn't that make your brain happy? Yes. So I basically textured it in a gradient going from moss to mossy cobble to pale moss to a little bit of pale oak to give it like a kind of shadow into tough and then into deep slate. Then I finished it off with like a bouldery slope at the bottom, and I was pretty happy with this, I'm not gonna lie. This was probably my first time ever using a block palette before, and I cannot believe I played for years without ever using a palette. These make building so much easier. It's finally time to build the giant tree on top. The main attraction. The part that stumped me the most when I tried building this in survival. But this time I'm in creative and I've got fire in my veins. After I did the first outline for the tree, I took a step back and looked at it. It was way too skinny. So I decided to make it quite a bit bigger at the base, and then I started building it up. So just like the plateau, I'm just getting a rough shape of the tree built out. And I love doing it like this. Because the way I've always built in survival is I just take it one little piece at a time, and I end up detailing that piece before I move on to something else. And sometimes you end up realizing like the whole shape of the build isn't really how you wanted it, but you've already added so many details that you can't really go back. So I think it's really important to just get this shape exactly how you want it before you start to mess with anything else. Then I had to build the tree branches, and I had no idea how to do these. Like, I don't know if I'm alone here, but if anyone watching has tried to do custom trees, are building branches not the hardest part of this? Like, how do you do it? They were annoying me so much, I had to take my first break. I think I came back a couple hours later, and I had a pretty good idea for them. I basically just drew out 8 branches from the sides and the corner, and then I thickened them all up a little bit one by one, adding some curve, and then I finished them off with some branches. Like, that looks good, doesn't it? I was so happy with this. I've never had success building custom trees, and oh my gosh, these branches made me so happy. Now obviously I didn't want to place tens of thousands of leaves by hand, so I tried using the fill command to make a giant rectangle of leaves around the logs, and then I noticed the leaf decay would kind of shape out the leaves for me a little bit, and then I wouldn't have as much work to do. Then I shaved off the bottom of the leaves because I sort of wanted to expose the big main branches that were extending from the tree, so I carved out a couple of the leaves to show them a little bit. Then I did a little bit of hand placing leaves, and I was kind of making like this ring all the way around to make like a circular shape of all the leaves that I was going to end up with. But I was getting kind of tired of placing these, so I started working on something else. I thought it'd be kind of a cool idea to put a spring in the very top of the tree and like the water coming from that would run down the tree. It'd be like a fountain of youth or like a, some sort of spring of life. I used spruce logs to kind of indicate that they were like wet. Then I kind of saw how like a waterfall would look coming out of it and I kind of liked it, but I ended up plugging it up and saving it for later. Now the next idea I had was to build these like tangly root systems that would just be branching out from the bottom of the tree and going all over the place, up and down, left, right, in the rock, out of the rock. And I was really invested in this idea. I was committed to it. I was building a lot of roots and they were looking pretty good, but it felt like they were just too much. And they were really distracting me, so I ended up just scrapping the idea altogether. What I opted to do instead of all the tangly roots was just do these kind of like bulges at the base of the tree where the roots would be, and I think it looked a lot better this way. At this point, I felt like we had most of the wooden part of the tree finished, and we were ready to move on to like doing some decorating and start to really get the details on this bad boy. So my whole big vision for this was to have like a whole village living inside and outside of this tree, and here I'm trying to make this dark oak tree house look good, and I'm really trying my best, but honestly, it's just really not coming together. So because I wasn't feeling it, just like with the leaves, I decided to start doing something else. And honestly, maybe it won't work for everybody, but if you feel like you're getting frustrated with a certain task and you know you have other things you could do, sometimes it's just a good idea to switch it up just to get like a change of pace. And while you're doing something else, there's a very good chance you're going to figure out exactly what you want to do with what you're getting frustrated with. And just like that, we get a bunch of cute little mushrooms growing out of the trunk. Take that, writer's block. You can't stop me when I always switch up what I'm working on. So I finally tore down the first treehouse that I didn't like, and I decided to go for a second round of trying to build it. I thought putting these copper bulbs behind some windows would really breathe some life into this build and make it really feel like there were people existing here. I really liked it, but it just wasn't quite right yet. I then tried like another window style with like trap doors and stuff, and oh my goodness, I love the copper bulbs, but I just couldn't find the right way to present them, so I scrapped it. But don't worry, we'll find a way to make the copper bulbs live in this build. Alright guys, so you know that funny thing called life? And you know how it sometimes gets in the ways of things? Well, that footage you guys were just watching actually is 2 months old. I've wanted to finish this video, but I couldn't. I would literally be laying in bed dreaming about finishing this build. Hey, but fast forward 2 months, baby, and I'm back at it. I got fresh ideas, and boy, was it worth the wait. And I got this idea to use stripped oak on the inside to make it look like we were carving a path inside the side of the tree. It looked so good, but it needed some railing, so I started brainstorming a few ideas with trap doors, trying to get the perfect fit for these things, right? And I thought these oxidized copper trap doors were really, really good because they're like, oh yeah, it's green, but it's also kind of blue, and it's a little too blue, I'm not gonna lie. I was going with the fully oxidized ones for a little bit until I finally realized it wasn't gonna work, so then I switched to the weathered and the exposed, and I did like a little mix. I decided that this point in the stairway was going to be the perfect spot for like a grand entrance because, it's like perfectly center in the tree. So I carved out a giant hole, and I thought it might be a good idea to put stripped logs on the outside of this entrance, but I changed my mind after. Now the next couple hours of building, I either lost the footage or I forgot to record, I don't know. But I had backup because I had my replay mod going, so we're all good. Anyways, I was wrapping the stairs all the way up around the tree, and I brought back the copper bulbs, baby, just like I promised. And I really liked the look of these. They were like little windows with people living inside of it with the lights on, it gives you that Disney feel. Don't copyright me just because I said Disney. Now it was finally time to have my second attempt at making the treehouse, and I was struggling a little bit. I went through a couple different designs. I was tinkering around. Nothing really felt right until I finally got something that I felt really stuck. And for the roof, I started out using the same stony texture that I used as the base of the build, like to build the plateau. But then I had the idea to incorporate some browns into it to kind of make it blend into the trunk a little bit more and make it look even more natural. I ended up with something that I was pretty happy with, but for the other side of the roof, I ended up just doing the stony texture, and I was going to just sit on that for a little bit until I decided what I liked more. Then I added some finishing touches, and it was time to continue the path around the tree. I wanted the path to go down and around the tree again, but I wasn't really feeling the outside path. So I ended up doing another hole inside the tree, and I decided I was going to do like a network of paths that would connect all of the holes of the tree together. But I realized I put off building the leaf part of the tree for long enough. So here I was testing the range of which one log would stop leaves from decaying, because I wanted to use leaf decay to my advantage again to fill out a lot more of these leaves. So I put down my first ring of logs, and then I worked my way in towards the center. And even just doing these logs felt time consuming, so I can't even imagine how long it would have actually taken me to place every single leaf by hand. God forbid I try to build this in survival. So I pasted in my first chunk of leaves, and as you can clearly see, this is still going to take a lot of work to polish. But I just kept going, I placed more rings, I filled in more leaves. And this is where I just wish I had a giant hedge trimmer that I could just go in and fine-tune all the leaves to my exact liking without having to break and place a bunch of blocks. But now that we had a giant canopy over our build, we had tons of shadows, but this is exactly what we wanted. So now when I build more of the details, I'm going to know where I need lighting to be. Now I'm cutting out hours and hours of the next footage because it's literally just monotonous breaking and placing leaves to get it to the shape that I kind of like. Now, the top part of the tree was taking me so long to do, I just got sick and tired of it, and honestly, it's not like you're gonna see the top part that much. So I just started working on the underside, and even though it's still monotonous leaf placing, this was a million times more enjoyable than doing the other stuff. And after a while, I finally had the leaves just about how I wanted them. So now I was able to work on some lighting to show off all the texture of the leaves that I placed down. I thought some hanging shroom lights would be absolutely perfect for this, but they kind of stood out a little bit and were a little distracting, so I finally had the idea to put some trap doors on them, and I thought they looked way better with this. Then I built this giant light window right above the main entrance, and I loved the look of this. I tried a couple different glass colors out. I was really liking these more vibrant colors, but I couldn't decide on one, so I just went with black for now, and I started working on the next thing. And what is the next thing? Obviously, a magical wizard tower, because this is a giant magical tree, so obviously there has to be some people that know some magical wizardy stuff, you know? And this kind of took me a little while to get just right, because it's kind of hard to make something that screams wizard tower at a small scale like this. But after quite a bit of tinkering around, I felt like I finally had it. Now it was finally time for the last treehouse of the build. I think it just makes sense that all the people living in this tree would be really in tune with nature, so I thought this final treehouse should be centered around like farming or flowers. And I feel like I really nailed this one. I got like a couple crop boxes, I got all the potted plants and planter boxes. And instead of building a normal roof for this treehouse, I instead used mushrooms and a cherry tree. And while the pink leaves stand out quite a bit, I think in this one instance, it kind of works. And now this next idea I had, I feel really just tied together the atmosphere of the whole build. Remember that spring at the top of the tree? I want to have that flow down over this water wheel, and this water wheel will basically act as something to power all of the copper bulbs throughout the tree. I think having something like this in your build to give everything logic and a reason to exist, it really just immerses you more into the atmosphere. And just look at that, the water flows over the water wheel through these like little sluices and down through the tree in like the little garden area, and I really feel like this gives it a magical effect. But I felt like the dark oak as the water wheel was just a little too hard to see, so I replaced it with the mangrove, and I think it looked a lot better. Now there were tons of spots that were just completely pitch black, so I put a bunch more lights up. I like doing these corner lights, those were pretty cool. I even tucked a couple shroom lights under the big red mushrooms. I thought that was a nice way to hide some lighting. But I just want to take a second to say, I cannot believe how well this build is actually even going. I didn't think it would actually look this good. I didn't know I could do this much. But it was now time for the interior, and I wanted to keep it pretty simple. I just wanted to line the entire tree with these stripped oak logs, and then I just connected all the holes together with some simple paths. And then I encased these paths in more stripped oak logs to make it feel like you were walking through carved out tunnels inside the tree, and I loved the feel of this. It just worked so perfectly. Now I'm about 15 hours in, and I'd say we're almost finished, guys. I just have to put on some finishing touches and details, and then we did it. Now the first detail I wanted to fix was some of these dark patches on the walkways, so I made some standing lampposts using lightning rods and lanterns, and I think they worked pretty good. And the next thing I needed to finish up was the walkway, because I started it a couple blocks up on the tree, and I decided I would just finish the bottom of it later. And I ended up with these really big stairs that extended out from the tree, and honestly, this is one of my less favorite parts of the entire build. It just seems a little bit too much, but I didn't really have a better idea, so I just kind of ran with it, you know? Next, I started lining the moss blocks that were around the bottom of the tree with mud instead, because I wanted to build a moat at the bottom of the tree that was like a result of the spring flowing out. And for underneath the water, I was using a mix of deep slate, cobbled deep slate, and mud because I thought the colors were similar enough, and when they're covered up by the water, I thought it would look like a nice texture. Then on the outside of the moat, I added a mix of coarse and rooted dirt and a little bit of packed mud. Then I topped it all off with some moss carpets. And in order to get even more lighting, I added some like leaf shrubs with shroom lights underneath them crawling up the tree. I put a couple of those up all around the base. Then I just started going buck wild with some vines, and this is my favorite part. Like, you don't have to do much thinking. It always looks good. You can just put vines anywhere, and it just works with this because it's just a giant tree. Of course, there's going to be vines everywhere. Then I started designing some lanterns because I wanted to put a circle of them around the plateau and light up the rest of it. And yeah, that definitely worked. And it was finally time to finish the build. The last final touches was just me putting up some shrubbery, foliage, flowers, you name it, all around the moat and the outside of it, and I ended up with something that I thought looked absolutely incredible. So alas, with 18 hours of hard work, I've turned this ugly tree farm surrounded by a black box into the best build I've ever done in Minecraft. I am so proud of this. And oh my gosh, it looks so good at night too. Hey, and for anyone who's made it this far in the video, I need you to comment. BOO has been real quiet since this dropped.